Hello everyone, thanks for joining us on this Saturday morning and welcome to this educational presentation. Now today I'm going to show you how to easily determine the strength of any trend. And someone may ask, well, why is this so important? I mean, why don't I just have a point of entry and a point of exit, and what about just getting out when some guy on TV tells me to get out, or get into a trade when some guy on TV tells me to get in? Well, that can actually lead to a lot of trouble, because really as a trader, what happens is that you're basically taking yourself out of the process. And when you don't have an understanding of what's going on in the market, many times it will tend to either result in losing trades, or else you're giving back a lot of the profit that you originally had. For example, let's look at this chart. This is an older chart of Netflix. And let's say, as we see here in hindsight, that it went straight up. Let's say you were lucky enough, according to your system or your strategy, to actually get long right around here, around these levels, okay? Now, the market has been going straight up, and you've got a really great trade. You're not sure exactly what to do. Should you exit? Or maybe should you buy more? Or should you perhaps sell a portion of your position? Or maybe just you want to be a little prudent and actually raise your stop, or put some type of stop placement in, just to make sure that you're not going to lose a lot of the profit that you actually have. Or maybe you're thinking of getting in for the first time and you missed the trade entirely. Should you get in? Maybe better late than never, right? So there's always a lot of options to take here as to knowing when or where you should enter or exit into a trade. Well, with today's educational presentation, I'm going to share with you how you could have exited right here and then gotten another signal to exit right here prior to this downward move. Now remember, once again, this is what I just stated a few moments ago. This is why this is so important to know the strength of a trend, because if you had some type of information that the trend was running out of steam right here at these levels, you could have protected a position you were already in. You could have decided not to buy more. You could have perhaps maybe sold a portion of your position, or gotten out altogether, or maybe raised your stop so that when it did turn around against you, at least you had held on to some profits. So this raises the question, what if there were a tool that could help you determine the strength of a trend? Well, there actually is. In fact, I've developed it with ProTrader strategies, and you can only find it on our platform, the new PTS Primo Charting Platform. This is the educational portal that actually teaches you how to trade and helps you to determine the strength of any trend. So you'll see just how simple it is to apply this tool in today's educational presentation. So welcome once again. Thanks for taking time out of your Saturday to join us. My name is Steven Primo, President and Founder of Specialist Trading. I've been trading for a total of 43 years now. I started out my career on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange. I was on the floor for a total of 16 years, and 9 of those years I was a specialist. That's where we get the name Specialist Trading. Now, if you're not familiar with what a specialist is or what they do, it doesn't mean they're any more special than any other traders. But if you ever looked at those old pictures about the trading floor where guys are yelling and screaming and they're making all these weird hand gestures, and there's paper all over the floor, that's what I used to do. And many of those traders, the majority of them, were just floor brokers or floor traders. The specialists were the ones that they were yelling and screaming at, because the specialist had an obligation to buy or sell shares in roughly about 50 or 60 stocks. So you had to make a market in those stocks. It was very similar to an auction. And as the specialist, it was your requirement that you had to either buy or sell anytime someone wanted to either unload some stock or purchase some stock. The beauty of this is that you could create your own price, but it had to be regulated. You couldn't just say I want to buy it at 1 and sell it at 100. It had to be in the fair range system. So this is what I did during the crash of 1987 and the bull market that followed. And so I've traded just about every system, every strategy you can think of. If it's been around before, trust me, they've just renamed it, and I've already traded it. And plus, I've traded straight up markets, straight down markets. So in my 43 years plus of trading, I know what works in terms of consistency, and I know what doesn't. So this is why I teamed up with ProTrader Strategies, so that we could educate you, so that you wouldn't have to spend your hard-earned money and all of your hard-earned time searching for that holy grail, when it's really about educating yourself and just focusing on the things that have shown consistency throughout the years. So this is what we do, and we're really an educational company, first and foremost. And you'll see how I'll educate you today with this great tool for determining the trend. But as always, before we begin, we are required by law to share this with you. Excuse me. Please take a moment to view our disclaimer. I'm going to show you a lot of performance results using this strength of trend tool, but please remember that we can in no way guarantee that any of the results I'm about to share with you will be repeated in the future. And also, please remember that all examples are strictly for educational purposes only. Now, another way to educate yourself on a daily basis is to follow us on Twitter. If you haven't done so already, here's our handle right there. It's an abbreviation for Specialist Trading. You may want to copy that down. Every day I post different educational information, anywhere from signals our strategies have generated to little bits of financial wisdom. So there's lots of great free educational information on a daily basis. Feel free to follow us on Twitter. Now, as I stated in the very beginning, we're a little bit different from other companies in that our only purpose is simply to educate you. If you've come here today thinking that, well, this guy's probably going to tell me what to buy for next week or what the perfect market is, or if he thinks the market is bottoming out or topping out or whatever it's going to do, you really come to the wrong place, because that goes entirely against our philosophy. Our philosophy, as you see here, is not to trade for you, but our philosophy is simply to actually teach you how to trade. That's our only goal, okay? And you'll see that today as we begin, how I really want to put a sense of purpose into your trading. And the only way you can do that is by making your own trading decisions, okay? Now, we're going to begin right now, but before we do, I know a lot of you want to ask me questions, or you'll ask questions when you see the slides. I want you to ask me as many questions as possible. This won't be a very long presentation, but if we do ask a question for every slide, we'll be here far too long and we'll take up too much of your Saturday morning. So if you happen to have a question, please wait till the very end. That's when I'll take the questions. The only question I will answer right now is the most common, and that is this being recorded? Yes, it is. We record all of our webinars. So if you have to leave early, or more importantly, if you're having technical issues, some people were reporting earlier they had problem hearing me, or the sound was going in and out, or they couldn't see the screen properly. Oftentimes that's due to your internet connection. If you close down some other programs that are not being used, or sometimes just log off to the GoToWebinar platform and then log back on, you'll be able to see and hear everything clearly. But once again, if you can't, don't worry, you will all get a link to this recording at the end of today's presentation, okay? So remember, kindly wait till the end of today's class in the next 20 or so minutes, and then I will take questions. All right, with that said, let us begin. And I want to begin by sharing with you something that my mentors taught me. It was a very difficult concept to grasp, but once I did grasp it, things started to fall into place and I started to become a more consistent trader. And they said, Steve, the market, not some guy in a chat room, not some guy on TV, not even some guy giving a webinar on a Saturday morning, but the market is always telling you what it wants to do. Your only job as a trader, therefore, is simply to listen to the market and then jump on board. You see, we always make things more complicated than they have to be. We're always trying to put more and more things onto our trading plan because we've always been taught that the more complicated something is, the more valid it will be, right? The more successful it will be, the more money you'll make. And in my 43 years of trading, I've actually found that it's the opposite. It's actually the simpler your trading plan and the least complicated is what really generates the most consistency. So it really doesn't take a lot of character to complicate your trading, but it takes a lot to simplify it. And the way you can do that is to block out all of this, what my mentors called useless noise, by listening to outside sources like guys on TV, earnings reports, fundamental analysis, what the institutions are doing, volume. Trust me, I used to listen to all those things 43 years ago, okay? If you think that's what you're supposed to be listening to now, I listened to them over 4 decades ago. And I can't tell you how much of a failure I was by listening to those things. None of those things had any levels of consistency. It wasn't until I listened to my mentors, it took me a couple of years to finally grasp this, that I started to become consistent. And so what they said is, Steve, listen, the only thing that you should be listening to is the source of what you're trading. And that's the chart in front of you. So the market is always telling you what it wants to do. Your only job is therefore to listen and jump on board. Your job is not to pick a top. It's not to pick a bottom. It's not to figure out what the earnings are or what the inner workings are of the company. It's not to figure out what the jobless claims are going to be. I mean, I stopped looking at that stuff four decades ago, and I'm still here. So I'm living proof that you don't really need that if you want to be consistent. So your job is just to listen to the market. So how do we listen to the market? Well, this is where this tool comes in. It's specifically designed to listen to the market in terms of its strength. Okay? This is our new custom crosshair. Now, most people know what a crosshair is. It's a tool that you have on your chart that basically looks like this. These are standard crosshairs. Okay? Basically, just kind of look like a cross. That's why they get the name crosshairs. A vertical and a horizontal line. And so what most people do is they will put this over the price. Whatever you're looking at. It can be a 5-minute chart of the E-minis, can be a monthly chart of stocks, can be a 4-hour chart of currency pairs. Makes no difference, but you can apply a standard crosshair. And this is fine. All right, this gives you an idea of geometrically how the price looks as opposed to these crosshairs. We're going to use them a little bit differently because we don't want to use the crosshairs to simply identify and show us how price looks. We want to just forget about price. We're just concerned more about, is there strength left in whatever move we just saw, or is there beginning strength? Okay, so what we did was we developed this tool called the custom crosshair, our strength of trend tool, and it's a little bit different. You still have the standard down and up and sideways crosshair, but now we've added a top diagonal line and a bottom diagonal line on proprietary settings here. Okay, so how is this going to come into play? How does this help us determine the strength of trend? Well, remember, most people, when they use their regular standard crosshairs, they place the crosshair over price. We're going to do this a little bit differently. We want to firstly add the buy-sell line. All right, so what is the buy-sell line? The buy-sell line is another way in which we call our 50-period moving average because it tells us whether we're buying or selling. Now, I've given classes on that, so I'm not going to go into the inner definition of that, but it's basically just the 50-period moving average. So here's an older chart of that Netflix we talked about earlier, where it went straight up and straight down. The first thing we want to do is click on our platform the buy-sell line. This is right here, and there are 4 different options for viewing it. We're just going to look at the simplest, which is the 50-period moving average. You'd click that on, and you see the 50-period moving average appear. All right, now here's where the magic comes in. All right, what we want to do now is apply our strength of trend tool, the custom crosshair, and here's the second requirement right here, the custom crosshairs. These are the only things you need to determine the strength of the trend. As you can see here, we have an extremely strong upward sloping 50-period moving average line. This means that there's a lot of momentum. The only trouble is we don't know how long that momentum is going to last. Remember, we would have bought way back here. How could we have known that the momentum, even though it was still going up, was running out of gas before we gave it all back, all of our profits? Well, we apply our custom crosshair. Here is the icon on our platform. You would click that on and you automatically see it appear. Now here's what we want to do. Here's the process. I'm going to share with you some older charts just so you understand the process, and then we'll look at some recent charts where I'm going to look at the platform, the live platform right now, and look at charts that are just the last couple of weeks old, and we'll see how this could have helped us. But here's the process. Remember before, most people will use a crosshair and they'll place it over the price. This is going to be different. What we want to do is look for a real strong upward move or downward move away from the 50-period moving average. And once we see, in this case, a new closing high, what we want to do, instead of placing the crosshair on the price, is we place it directly below that new closing high and place it on the 50-period moving average, on the buy-sell line. As you see right here, here's where it's placed. Now, how are we going to decipher what this means? Well, we have the custom crosshair with the upper diagonal line and the lower diagonal line. If we see that the 50-period moving average is well below, the lower the better, the further away from the lower diagonal line, this is a strong indication suggesting that this move is running out of steam. It's running out of gas. And therefore, it's up to you to make some decisions. You want to either, you can decide to get out all entirely, or if you're in the trade, you can decide to move your stop up, you can decide to sell a portion of your position, or you can decide just to be, more mindful of this particular position and just watch it very closely. As you can see, many times you'll get a quick sell-off right off the bat, but then it continues to go even higher. Well, we'll show you exactly how to do that and how to, accommodate that by using our custom charts, crosshair on our PTS Primo Charting Platform. Remember, you can only find this tool on our platform because it teaches you how to trade. All right, so let's look at some technique examples. Once again, let's go back and look at Netflix. Remember we stated you were lucky enough to get into this position right here. All of a sudden, it just takes off. And as it takes off, it really moves a far away distance away from the 50-period moving average. And we see the 50-period moving average now has this very strong upward slope. Okay, these are all right conditions to add our custom crosshair. All right, so what we do is we click it on. And let's say at this point we placed it over the first high, okay? This was the first closing high after that first initial run. Let's say you were thinking of maybe selling it right here. Well, we apply the custom crosshair at that highest closing. We see that on the 50-period moving average, if we were thinking that this was running out of steam, most likely this should be well below that lower custom crosshair, and it wasn't. So this was telling us that according to the tool, there may be some more strength left in this, and guess what? We had another run. So now we have another closing high right here. So now we move, at that point, we move the custom crosshair, and now we see that we are well below. You see now we're well below that bottom green diagonal line. So this is a strong warning that we may, remember, this is not 100% foolproof. If it were, you know, everyone would be purchasing this and saying, this is how I'm going to trade from now on. This is the easiest tool in the world. It's simply a suggestion, but a great, powerful suggestion in telling you if there's still momentum left in. So at this point, it was giving us a clear warning that we should be careful. We may be running out of steam. And this is what happens many times. You'll see an immediate sell-off, and then you'll see it starts to go back up. So what does this mean? Does it mean that the tool was wrong? Not necessarily. What we want to do is move this crosshair now to the next closing high right here, and let's see if it confirms it. Well, if this next run-up were to be confirmed and it was going higher, that would mean that this blue 50-period moving average should be above the bottom diagonal line. But it wasn't. It was still below. So all it's telling you is that rather than looking at this as if we're going to make a new run-up and make a new higher high, this is simply telling us that you shouldn't really fall for this, and that this is not a confirmed higher close. So this is just basically a false rally. You should be looking to get out or move your stop up, or at least not think about buying into this. And that's where the stock fell out of bed. So you see how important this tool is in helping you make that decision. Let's look at another example here, an older chart in PSA. Same thing, the stock starts to take off, and you can see the accelerated upward move in the 50-period moving average line. Let's say you were lucky enough to get long somewhere around here. Okay, now we have our first closing high that we're concerned about. We put the custom crosshair over it. It's not below. It's kind of a little bit above it and kind of like intersecting it. So that's not enough to tell us. So someone could say, well, Steve, this didn't work very well because look at the sell-off. Well, in all actuality, you're right. It didn't work correctly, but that could have been looked at as a buying opportunity because it wasn't confirmed. So if you looked at it positively and said, well, listen, it wasn't confirmed by the custom crosshair, strength of trend tool, so maybe what it's telling me is that this is a buying opportunity. And that would have been a really nice choice because look what happened. It was confirmed and it went higher. Now at this second level here, we move our custom crosshair over and it's still doing the same thing. It's not really going below. It's just kind of hugging it very tightly. So we have a congestion right here, and then guess what? There's still more room left in it. Let's say at this point right here, you started to get a little worried and say, I have a really nice profit, but I want to check this. You put the custom crosshair over, and for the first time, we are below. Not tremendously below that diagonal line, but we're still below. This is an early warning, telling us that this may be running out of gas. Now, here's what a lot of traders like to do. A lot of students of ours who are using this, they'll say, once I start to see, even if we're just a little bit below, rather than exiting at the market, what I'll do is I'll just have a trailing stop. I'll first initially put my trailing stop here, and as the trade pursues, if we continue to go higher, I'll raise my stop up here, and I'll raise my stop up here, and I'll continue to track it until I'm ultimately stopped out, okay? Now, let's say you had done that, and you had been stopped out. Well, for the next week or two, you would have been kicking yourself saying, boy, why did I use this stupid tool that Steve Primo is telling me about? You know, the stock went higher and I'm already out. Well, sure, maybe, you know, this is not something designed to get you out at the top and get you in at the bottom. This is just something to give you an early warning. Because sure, you would have had to sit through 2 weeks of kicking yourself thinking, why did I get out? But look what happened 2 weeks later, okay? At this point, you would have been saying, boy, I'm sure glad I raised my stop. That was a great exit. I got out towards the top rather than holding on the position and giving all my profits back. This is why this tool is so valuable. As you can see here, as we put the custom crosshair over this close, look at how far the distance was from the bottom one, okay? One more older example before we move on to more recent charts. The same thing. We have a real nice run up here, and then it seems to run out of gas. As we have the first closing high, let's say you were lucky to get long here. We have it over at this point, and the 50 is above the lowest diagonal. So we're not going to take advantage of selling this, because even though we sold off, it still was not confirming. Once again, this could have been viewed as a buying opportunity as opposed to a selling opportunity, because look what happened. All of a sudden it took off. Now if we place it over the next one, here's our first early warning. We are below now, okay? Not a lot. We'd like to see it as far away as possible, but you could have used this stop technique, which would have gotten you out here, and then once again you would have sat through 2 weeks of kicking yourself, but ultimately you would have been happy you exited. Let's say you stayed in and placed it over here. All right, now we are fair distance. The 50 is fair distance away from the lower green diagonal. That is a pretty big warning telling you you should be getting out, okay? And then look what happened after that. It actually topped out right there. All right, so that's the process we just shared with you on these older charts. Let me go to some more recent charts, but before we do, take one more look at our disclaimer. Remember, I'm going to show you some more recent charts here, and these are charts that have had some nice run-ups in the nice week or so. But please remember that we can in no way guarantee that any of the results I'm about to share with you will be repeated in the future. Please remember also that all the examples I'm about to share with you are strictly for educational purposes only. Okay, so let's look at some stocks here that have had some nice impact. And let's go to our platform, as we can see right here. This is our PTS Primo Charting Platform. This is a live chart, meaning live. I know the markets aren't open on a Saturday, but it's live, meaning that it's updated up until yesterday, of Tesla. Now, we have the 50-period moving average already plotted. All right, you see here on our platform all of our different techniques, methods, and strategies, and these are all our icons for all our tools. Now, we all know that Tesla has been going straight up. Okay, now let's say you got long off this breakout right here, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, okay, well, the guy in the chat room tells me that I should sell, it's going to top out, and then another guy in one other trading room tells me I should buy more, it's going to go higher. No one knows, and even the strength of tool trend doesn't know with 100% certainty, but I would more likely, in my 43 years after what I've learned, listen to the market as opposed to listening to some guys in a chat room. Trust me. I mean, they don't know any more than anyone else. And people will say, well, I think these guys are experts. Well, when I was first starting out, I was, learning under a number of experts, and not one of those experts is still trading anymore. Most of them have blown out their entire accounts. So I would never listen to anyone. That's why I don't listen to news. I don't listen to anyone on TV. I only listen to one thing, and that's the chart in front of me. And that, in my opinion, is what will make you a consistent trader. So this is why we've developed all these tools to help you. Now, one thing I'd like to mention, if you're going to use this tool, if you already have our platform, you're thinking of becoming a member, you want to give yourself a fair amount of time. So we usually want to go back anywhere from 2 to 4 months of time, okay, to give us some type of an idea of what exactly is happening. Let's tighten it up a little bit. Let's just say we're going to go back to here, okay? All right, so first thing we want to do is click on the custom crosshairs. Just simply click that on and you see it appears. Now let's say we wanted to see at this close if we should stay on. If we were lucky enough to get long here, so we place it right over the 50. And where is the 50? It is hugging and a little bit higher than that lower diagonal. So the custom crosshair is saying there's nothing left to worry about this. We've still got some more room left in it. Okay, so let's go up to this new high that was made here. We do the same thing, and as you can see, it's not well below. If the lower it is, the 50-period moving average, the blue 50-period moving average below the lower diagonal, then that's telling you, then that's a very strong warning, because that's all this tool does. It gives you warning and insight. It doesn't predict the top or bottom. So it wasn't giving you any warning. So even when Tesla had this little sell-off right here, well, this could have been viewed as a buying opportunity. That would have been a nice one, because then look what happened. Now look at the next high that was made right here. Let's put the custom crosshair directly on the 50-period moving average. Well, it's starting to go below. It's not well below, but it's starting to go below. So this could have given us a warning, okay? What we want to see is it as furthest away as possible, but it's just very minorly below that. Let's look at this last close that was made this last week. Let's place our crosshair over this. And now we're still not really further apart, where we're start to getting a little bit more. So I personally would start to either, if I were long Tesla, I would do the stop placement where I'd move my stops below the last bar. I move them up. If I were long, maybe these are just suggestions. I'm not long, and I'm not advising and adjusting your positioning. I'm just telling you, these are different ways you could look at it. You personally have to make your own decision. You could perhaps sell half your shares if you were thinking about getting long. Say some guy on TV over the weekend says, Tesla is amazing. This is going to be $1,000 stock. You should buy it right now. I wouldn't listen to him. I would say, this is a warning coming from the market. I only listen to the market. So I would, adjust accordingly using this. All right, let's look at the other side, because I know we've only been looking at upside. We can use this on the downside as well. Let's look at Beyond, B-Y-N-D. Okay. Simply click apply. And we can see that this has had an opposite move. This is now going to the downside. Okay. So let's say someone, according to their analysis, is thinking, well, this is a good buying opportunity. Or maybe you were even short. You're lucky enough to get short here around 150. And you're thinking, where do I cover? Well, when we made these first lows, like right here, let's see, we place it right there. And as you can see, it's now above the top red top diagonal. All right, that's telling us that most likely this downward move is coming to an end, or it's running out of steam. Not necessarily coming to an end, but at least running out of steam. So if you're short, you may want to think about it. Now remember, the higher that blue line is above the red horizontal or diagonal bar, I should say, that's the bigger the warning. So far, this is just giving you a slight warning. As this made another low, let's say this one right here, let's now move it above and touch. It's a little bit stronger, not that much, but still giving us a warning that, this may be running out of steam to the downside. And then we made another low right here. And as you can see, we are still being given warnings a little bit more. Now you see how the 50 period is now much more above. At this point, I probably personally would suggest, taking a minimal of your profits if you're lucky enough to go short at 150, because you've already made a 50% profit. And then look what happened, has eventually happened. It looks as if this is starting to go back up. So do you see how valuable this tool could have helped you? Let's say you were thinking about, possibly going long. Well, I'm not telling you where to buy or where to sell, but this tool could have given you a good idea, okay? All right, another move to the upside. There's been a lot of talk about gold lately, because gold, when the market is frightened, will tend to bring in a lot of buyers in gold. So let's punch up the ETF for gold, GLD. As we see, the stock was basically doing nothing until mid-December, where it took off. This is what you're looking for. This is where this tool really comes in handy, all right? So as it's taking off, we had this closing high right here. Let's place it over. And guess what? This has not given us any warning that gold is running out of steam. So where people might say, well, there was that scare with the news that happened around the world, about possible war or some type of interaction. So that's why gold shot up like that. Well, this is not predicting anything. This is not saying what's going to happen in the Middle East. This is just telling you gold, the market, the source we're looking at right now, is saying most likely we're not running out of steam yet. We have some more room to the upside. So this is a very interesting thing to see here. This would mean possibly that there may be some more fundamental news that may happen in the world that may cause gold to go back up. The funny thing is, before any of that is happening, gold, the source, is already telling us that most likely, not 100% guaranteed, but most likely it still has room to go on the upside. So this is something you may want to think about. Now remember, your decision whether to trade it is up to you. We're not giving you any advice, or not telling you what to do. This is just a tool that suggests things, okay? Let's look at another downward move in letter I. You see how simple it is to get these. Now this is once again what we're looking for. Let's say that you were thinking about buying this. You think it's gone far too low and you really want to think about when this is going to run out of steam to the downside, or let's say you were lucky enough to get short and you're making some good money and you're thinking, well, gosh, this thing is just falling out of bed. Where do I even consider? Well, when we made this, let's say right here, when we made this first low after 3 days of going down, let's put the custom crosshair. And even after that strong downward move from roughly 25 all the way down to 12, look at the custom crosshair. The blue line was not above the red. So it was telling you there's still some room to the downside, the same way we just observed the opposite side with gold, okay? So now we kind of go up for one day, and then guess what? Another big downward move, and then another gap down move. Let's place the custom crosshair now over the 50, and now we have a very slight warning that this may be it. Not advice, not a prediction, but just a warning suggesting that because the blue line is above the diagonal, this may be the time to exit the trade. So if you're short. Well, let's say you waited a little for another lower close. Let's say you waited for right here. The market's just kind of going sideways. We have a new lower close. Let's move the custom crosshair over. And now you have a very strong warning. Do you see how the blue line is well above that higher diagonal? That's a strong warning coming from the market, not some guy on TV, not some earnings report. The market telling you that most likely this is running out of steam to the downside. And you may want to cover, or it's not telling you to buy that it's going to go straight up. It's just telling you the downside momentum may be running out of gas. And look what's happened. We've started to slowly go back up. Okay. Let's look at DLTR because, oops, this is a great example of how this can work both ways. Now, DLTR had a really nice strong run up. It was well away from the 50-period moving average. It kind of bounced above and below and then fell out of bed. How could this tool have helped us in both instances? Well, as we were going higher and higher, on this first closing high, we see right here, we placed the custom crosshair over. It's not enough information to tell us that this run-up in DLTR is over. Why? Because the blue 50-period moving average line is still above that lower diagonal. Remember, we need to see the blue 50-period moving average well below that lower diagonal. So as we continue to make new closing highs, we see right here, now we move it, and guess what? Look how well the 50-period now is below. That's a strong warning that this is running out of gas now. If you're long, you may want to adjust accordingly. And then look what happened. We all saw that, in just a matter of months, in October all the way to, December last month, the stock went from roughly 118 all the way down to 88. So that was if you were holding on to this based off what some guy was saying in a chat room, you would have said, well, what am I listening to this guy for? Wouldn't have been a lot better just to listen to the market. Now, as the market goes lower and lower, let's say you were lucky enough to get some puts and you on this big gap down are having a very nice profit. As we have a new closing low, you would place the custom crosshair over the 50, and now guess what the market's telling you again? It's now telling us that most likely this sell-off is over or running out of steam. It's not saying that we're not going to go lower. It's just telling you that the momentum, the real strong downward move is running out of gas. And so we're most likely going to go sideways, or we may even start to go up. So you don't want to be in a sideways trade sitting and holding your cash for a month or so. So it's a good time to maybe move your stops. It's a good time to cover. Whatever you want to do, it's your choice. But you see how powerful this tool is. Remember, it does not predict the top or bottom. It does not tell you to buy or sell. It does not tell you how high or how low something will go. It will just simply give you a warning. It will suggest a warning that the market is either running out of steam to the upside or running out of gas to the downside. But that is tremendously powerful because you have everything that you need right in front of you. You don't have to rely on some guy on TV. You don't have to rely on someone in the chat room. Remember, as I said earlier, most of us overcomplicate our trading by listening to outside sources thinking that they know that better than we do. And in all actuality, they don't. Trust me, I did that. I subscribed to so many newsletters. I used to listen to all the news events. I listened to earnings reports and stuff. And I wasn't any more successful in doing that 43 years ago. I finally grasped the concept of what my mentors taught me. And this is what we try to do with Specialist Trading Pro Trader Strategies. Try to teach you all the same things that have worked and shown consistency throughout the years. Okay, so let's go back to the actual class again, as we looked at one last slide of our disclaimer here. Remember, everything we showed you were strictly for educational purposes only. We can in no way guarantee that any of the results going forward are going to produce the same results. Now, as we recap, please remember, as my mentors taught me, not some guy in a chat room, not some guy on TV, not some earnings report, and especially not some institutions should you be listening to. But the market is always telling you what it wants to do. So keep your trading simple. Your only job is, as a trader, is to simply listen and then jump on board. The market knows what it wants to do, so just listen to it and then go in the direction it wants to go. Trading is really simple. It's the trader that makes it more complicated than it has to be. Okay, here's the custom crosshair technique. Remember, once again, this is not a full-fledged strategy. I don't want you to think that, oh, well, gosh, I want to get this, so it'll tell me where to buy or sell on a daily basis. No, it's just an early warning tool in terms of momentum. You can apply it to both up and down trending markets, as we just saw, and virtually any market. Now, we just basically focused on stocks, but it makes no difference. In other words, the custom crosshair doesn't know if it's looking at a 50-period moving average of a 5-minute E-mini chart or of a monthly chart of the currency pairs. It doesn't know that. It's just looking at momentum. So you can also apply this to higher price markets. And it's been my observation. This is not something 100% guaranteed, but it's my observation. This tends to work better in those higher priced markets only because that's where there's more momentum. You're not going to see a lot of great movement up and down in a $3 or $4 stock. But if you see a $150 stock, that's where you get these big up and down moves. So that's where this can maybe help you a little bit more. Now, results may take a few attempts. Remember, as we showed you earlier in that Netflix example, the custom crosshairs were given an early warning that it was running out of steam, and we had a sell-off that lasted for a few days, and then guess what? It went up even higher. But on the second approach, where we made a second higher close, that's where the stock fell out of bed. So remember, you must experiment with this. I always tell my students to first paper trade before, actually using real capital to use this tool. So ask yourself, before you ask me questions, do you think this tool can help your trading starting this new year, going into 2020? I think if you truly answer this honestly, the answer is yes. So we have a great offer for all of you today. We're going to offer you our 30-day trial to the PTS Primo Charting Platform for only $7, which comes with the custom crosshair. So you can experiment for 30 days for only $7, but you're not only going to be able to experiment with the custom crosshair, we have a host of other educational tools on the platform. You're also going to get that enhanced buy sell line. That's a 50-period moving average, which comes with 4 different features and ways in which to use it. I've given numerous webinars on it. You can go online and see all of the different webinars and how to use that as well. We also have a short-term pattern recognition feature. There's also a signal scanner. You can scan for different features and different educational responses. Over 90 of the most prominent technical indicators. Here's one of my favorite things, though, that we have. Now, in our courses, in our strategy courses, where we have full-fledged rules for buying and selling and stop placement and entering, we also have upwards of 6 or 7 different exit placements, okay? One of them we were able to auto-generate on our platform. These are auto-generated exit levels. So you can do that now. As you can see here, all you have to do is simply, when there's a buy signal generated with one of our features, you would simply click on the auto-generated feature, and it automatically will place these exit levels on the screen. So prior to even knowing where the trade is going to go, you'll know where these exit levels are. And remember, it's your choice. You can choose whether to use this. You can choose whether to use this as a stop placement. Once we've reached them, you can raise your stop. You can actually choose to exit a portion of your position. It's entirely up to you. Or you can choose to bypass it. But let me just show you how powerful this is. This was an actual signal generated by one of our strategies. And look what happened. A week or so later, it went up all the way up to exit level number 2. If you were lucky enough to use these exit levels, well, you would have avoided this sharp move to the downside. You get this automatically on our platform. 30 days for only $7. Now, most of you like to go out and buy coffee on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning. If you go out and a couple, it's going to cost you well more than $7 just to get a couple of cups of coffee. And that'll last you a good 20 or 30 minutes. This is 30 days of over 40 years of information that I've accumulated in my personal life that I personally use on a daily basis for only $7. Okay, so here's how to take advantage of this great Saturday offer. Okay, contact Pro Trader Strategies. They're my sister site. I developed the platform with them. They're in charge of all our discounts and our courses. You can email them, call them directly at 310-598-6677, or you can go to the link you see at the very bottom. That's the link that takes you to the sign-up page, and there's more information there. Now, that link is not live, but I've just posted a live link on our chat box. That's on the GoToWebinar chat box on the far right-hand corner. Just simply click that on, and it will automatically take you to the sign-up page. Now, I promised you I would reserve the last 5 or 10 minutes for any questions. So if you have any questions, now's the time. Just go to the question and answer box and type them in, and I would be more than happy to answer them. Someone's asking, is this being recorded? Yes, it is. You must have come in late. We record all the presentations. Remember, once again, if you happen to come in late and miss the first part, or if you had technical issues, don't worry. We'll send each and every one of you a link to this recording, okay? Can this work on commodities? Yes, it does. That's a very good question. A lot of our traders we found out in the past have said that when the markets finally do run out of gas, in other words, when the stock market as a whole, the S&P, they want to start trading something a little bit more tangible, something more real. So they will move on to commodities. And yes, as I stated earlier, wherever there is momentum, wherever there is a bar chart and you can apply a 50-period moving average line, this tool will work. You can benefit from it, okay? So this is a great way to trade any market in any time frame. You want to use it on intraday trading, that's where I mainly use it. It really helps a lot. Someone is asking, what is the cost of the platform after 30 days? Good question. Now, I believe, you may want to check with Pro Trader Strategies, I believe the full cost is $97 per month, which is still tremendously inexpensive because, as I've often stated, I've traded just about every platform out there. And I've paid costs of from $300 to $500 per month, and none of these have maybe, in my opinion, 20% of the capability that we have on the platform, the PTS Primo Charting Platform, because they have everything I've accumulated in 43 years. These are things that you won't find. These are learning techniques such as the custom crosshair. So it's a great way to become acquainted with what we do and how we can teach you. And you have full rights to decide after 30 days whether you want to continue or not. It's entirely up to you. You're not locked into anything, okay? So that's a great question. As we close here, this is a great way to get to know us. Remember, these are things I use in my own personal trading that I've used for a number of years, and I really think they can help you. As I stated in the beginning of the presentation, we are first and foremost an educational company. That's all we're trying to do. We're doing that by educating you with tools that have shown consistency throughout the time of the markets, and we work with you and show you how to use them, but ultimately, you're going to be making your own decisions. That's how you become a consistent trader. So we're here simply to educate you with tools that really have shown high levels of consistency so that for the very first time, you can take control of your trading destiny. That, in my opinion, is how you become a consistent trader. So you won't just be having a couple of good months or maybe even a couple of good years, but you'll be trading 20, 30, 40 years down the road. That's my goal as your educator. Okay, so remember, if you're interested in this $7 package, this is a great offer. It may not be here next week when I give another presentation, so take advantage of that. As you can, contact Pro Trader Strategies. If you do have any more questions, there's no obligation. Call 310-598-6677. They have qualified trading consultants manning the phones. They would be more than happy to answer any question going forward, okay? As we close and take one last look at our disclaimer, I just want to say thanks for taking time out of your Saturday morning to join us today, and I look forward to all of you becoming students of mine and members of the PTS Primo Charting Platform. Thanks a lot. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.